Tempest came out near the end of the 90s. To set the time frame for you, that means the information that will be learned from this was learned by Rosewater specifically in the 90s, decades ago. Just bear that in mind, okay? Just bear that in mind. So the story is about Marrow and two young interns. I'm just going to say Rosewater, all right? In case people don't know. This story is about Rosewater and two young interns whose names are lost to time. Most people don't know this, but Rosewater wasn't actually hired as a designer, but rather as a developer. He was eager, though, to prove that he could design. So he got Richard Garfield to agree to work with him on a new set. This was enough to allow the head designer at the time, a man named Joel Mick, to give him a shot leading a design. So this paragraph just basically talks about Rosewater and how he managed to finagle his way into becoming a designer, where he didn't think that he would get the opportunity on his own. So he was like, well, if I get the guy who made the game to like work with me, then it's going to be way easier to get in. So the story says his first time designing was a lead set. That doesn't sound very plausible. I don't know, man. This third person story style is okay. Let's not get caught up on it. Let me tell my story, and then you can decide for yourself whether it's true or not. Anyway, there was a lot of pressure on Rosewater to deliver an exciting design. So he decided to push the boundaries. He made a new mechanic that allowed you to choose to start with the card in your opening hand. If you choose to do so, you had to begin with one card fewer. So, this is a mechanic where you get to start with a specific magic card in your hand, okay? And you lose a card from your hand in the process. So by getting the specific card, you are now going to have a 6-card hand to start with. Now contrast that to Companion. Companion is an 8th magic card that sits outside your hand. So instead of penalizing you by a card, it literally puts you up a card. Right? Yeah. Like that's the deal. Or I guess actually no. To be fair, you're not at 6 because you're discarding a card. So it replaces it. It stays at 7. It's not a 2 differential. I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So either way, what you need to understand is that before, to get a specific card in your starting hand, you had to discard a card. Whereas now with Companion, you literally just get the card extra on the side. So the response to this is amazing. In his own article, the response that somebody gave Rosewater to saying, hey, you have to discard a card, they go, just 1 card fewer? That's all? There wasn't a life loss or something? So when this concept was originally pitched, the idea, like when Rosewater originally came up with the idea for a Companion style start with this specific card, the situation was one where the person who heard it said, wait, it's got to be more than just discarding a card. That's not enough. There has to be life loss as well, or some other penalty, right? None of that's covered. So the response that Rosewater gives is the cards were weaker than normal. So you're opting to start with cards that were of a lower power level. Think about that for a second. Think about that, okay? Understand that this was a scenario where the cards were underpowered. And if you look at a number of the Companions, these are not underpowered cards. The Companions are not underpowered cards. In some cases, they kind of feel OP, don't they? Specifically cards like Lurrus, right?
Yes, they
not
do.
all Companions are born equal, but none of the Companions feel low power. Not a single one. So that's a massive contrast right there. So the cards are weaker than normal, so you were opting to start with cards that were of a lower power level. Rosewater was excited by this idea. Everyone gets frustrated when they can't get the card they need. But what if you had the ability to guarantee you could have the card you wanted in your opening hand? But it was a bit of a crazy idea. So Rosewater knew it needed to be playtested. Surprise, surprise, right? Luckily, Magic R&D had 2 young interns who were available for playtesting. He asked them to play in a room with a one-way mirror so he could secretly observe. I don't know if this is just an affectation of the story where he calls it the magic mirror. I just kind of picture like Rosewater just crouched behind a mirror watching them play Magic. Yes, test out my mechanics. I mean, he doesn't talk like that, but I can't do his voice, so I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll let him sound like he's like the Emperor from Star Wars or whatever. All right? So he's watching from behind this mirror. The playtesting went on all night, and Rosewater had a long day. So several hours in, he fell asleep. All right. What happened next? Early the next morning, Rosewater awoke to see a message written in lipstick on the mirror, reversed so he could easily read it. It read, deck variance, and I'm yelling here because it's actually capitalized. That's how important it is. Deck variance is the lifeblood of the game, and undercutting it with this mechanic has led to the most unfun playtest games we've ever played. If this is the future of Magic design, we want nothing to do with it. The interns were gone and haven't ever been seen since. Marrow took, or Rosewater I should say, took the new mechanic out of the file and never talked about it again. And never talked about it again. This article that I just read to you was written